Last month, my husband and I hosted a birthday party for his nephew, a sweet, loving, humble man who's risen surprisingly high in the infamous Nigerian government, poster child for corruption and greed. He's a born-again Christian, so my husband warned the guests that the party would be dry until the celebrant and his family left, at which point we'd break out the wine, liquor, and of course, Guinness. My husband was pleasantly surprised when his nephew promptly requested one of my infamous cocktails. No, no, the young man protested. Jesus turned water into wine, after all. He raised a finger in our East Bay kitchen and pleasantly surprised me. I drink, but even if I didn't, why shouldn't those around me do as they please? The next morning he called to thank us, saying that our party was a major life event on his Facebook timeline. Friend him, my Luddite husband urged. I was about to do so when I saw the comments from his 1,000-plus followers praise Nigeria's new law imposing 14-year prison terms for gay marriage and 10-year terms for those supporting gay rights. The next day, the nephew's face appeared wild-eyed and frothing about homosexuals in my news feed and on the cover of a Nigerian newspaper. What happened to, why shouldn't those around me do as they please? I moaned to my husband. Homophobia, something that's long caused our Nigerian-American household dukkha, as we routinely sift through our list of African friends and family members to determine who to include in dinners and parties, is rocking Africa's most populous and important nation. Much of my time online is spent recoiling at the sentiments my compatriots express towards gays and lesbians. Homosexuals are possessed by Satan and should have the gay beaten out of them. They are rutting animals who should be put down. They are the brainwashed victims of a great Western conspiracy to destroy Africa. And while I would agree that there is indeed a great Western conspiracy at least to exploit and consume Africa, I hardly think that gayness is the weapon of choice. Of course, homophobia exists everywhere, including countries that support marriage equality and gender reassignment, and it could be argued that many African nations have more pressing survival concerns. But I would counter that the recent rise in state-sponsored homophobia in 38 of Africa's 54 nations proves that A, the three poisons, greed, hatred, delusion, lead to sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, association with the unbeloved, separation from the loved, and far too often, death. In short, dukkha. And B, everyone suffers. Who suffers from African homophobia? 1, our agency. In being kidnapped, colonized, converted to Christianity and Islam, plundered, underdeveloped, and saved, we have internalized the suffering around being perceived as backwards, uncivilized, in need of rescue. Now we are thumbing our noses at the West's latest requirements. But this agency is delusion. Most countries that criminalize homosexuality are former colonies, particularly of Britain, which exported its anti-gay laws. Furthermore, we Nigerians are the first in line when it comes to happily swallowing capitalism, materialism, individuality, colorism, Anglophilia, fundamentalism. So until we rid ourselves of our blackberries and British accents and Bibles and skin bleaching creams, I'm simply not buying homosexuality as un-African neocolonialism. 2, those who don't hate. The particularly insidious nature of these laws criminalizing same-sex conduct is that anyone providing support or even fails to report suspected gays is also liable for prosecution. This violates international codes of human rights, evokes Nazi-era Germany, and allows fear to embody hatred. 3, anyone who doesn't conform to so-called traditional gender behavior. In traditional communal societies, the survival of the family, clan, village reasonably took precedence over the individual, but A, there was always a role, often spiritual, for those who didn't fit the mold. B, adaptation keeps societies relevant and healthy, so tradition alone cannot justify oppression. And C, Nigeria's population growth and subsequent strain on land, schools, jobs is already at dangerous levels. Any fear that the Nigerian family is in danger is simply delusion. 4, tradition. Westerners are always stunned to see men and boys holding hands, girls and women walking arm in arm. When my husband's male cousins spend the night, they pile into bed with him. My favorite part about visiting Nigeria is the easy intimacy with which my clanswomen snuggle up for naps, running their fingers through my curls and over my tattoo. Now, according to Nigeria's new law, anyone caught in a, quote, public show of affection faces a 10-year sentence. 5, the 61% of the population who live on less than $1 a day, despite Nigeria being one of the world's top oil producers and Africa's second largest economy. The 100 million poor Nigerians who don't have access to clean water, safe roads and transport, electricity, schooling, healthcare, or security because our politicians divert oil wealth and foreign aid to their families and skin-bleached mistresses, and then distract the public with hateful legislation. It is greed at its most cynical. Who suffers from African homophobia? 6. Any African identifying as or merely accused of being queer. In Cameroon, alleged gay men are subject to anal exams, and Jean-Claude Roger Mbedi was convicted on the basis of a text message. Across Africa, lesbians are targeted for so-called curative or corrective rape. Gays and lesbians are refused medical treatment. Dozens suffer in prison awaiting trial. Conviction in some countries carries a death sentence. In 2010, after a Ugandan tabloid published a list of the country's, quote, top 100 homosexuals, complete with photographs, addresses, and the line, hang them, prominent gay rights activist David Kato was beaten to death with a hammer. In 2012, Tanzanian human rights advocate Maurice Mjomba was found bound and murdered in his home, blood oozing from his genitals. And violence has been increasing since January 13th, when Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, already under pressure by the defection of party members and terrorist attacks by fundamentalist group Boko Haram, signed the bill many of us believed would never pass. On Valentine's Day, mobs wielding nail-studded clubs and whips dragged young men for their homes in Abuja, the shiny new capital built with petrodollars. Oh yes, Nigeria celebrates the Western tradition of St. Valentine's, Day of Romantic Love. Don't tell me we're not all suffering.